It's Motivation Monday, a new week, a fresh start and another opportunity to level up. This is your moment to reset your mindset, refocus your energy, and realign with your purpose. Whatever didn't work last week, that's done. Today you move differently, stronger, smarter, more disciplined, because growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from pressure and consistency, and showing up when it's hard. No excuses, no distractions, just elevation. The grind starts now, the discipline kicks in today. And the results, that's on you. Every move you make this week is building something bigger. So set the tone today, or spend the rest of the week trying to catch up. Because every Monday is a chance to rewrite your story, to step into a new version of yourself. This isn't just another week. This is your rebirth, Motivation Monday, powered by the Final Boss.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, episode number 236, man. Episode number 236. Listen, I got a great show for you tonight. Of course I do. It is Motivation Mondays, right? Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday, right? Man, this is season 4, the Rebirth Arc 3, right? Arc 3 is about to end. We got probably another week in Arc 3. Then we're going into Arc 4. So Arc 3 is the foundation, and Arc 4 is the construction, people. And look, let me adjust my seat real quick. Yeah. So that's better. Get all the wrinkles out, straighten up, right? We're here, man. We are here. And guess what? You know, we do on Motivation Mondays, man. We get ready to get up on a board. That fired up train, baby. The fired up train is in the building, right? Episode number 236. Whoo, boy, man. Tonight's episode, man, we're going to talk about something that's happening, and it happens to all of us. It happens to all of us, man. Before we have a major celebration or a major accomplishment, we go through this 5-day week process. You can't see my hand. 5-day week process, right? We're going to be talking about it tonight. And it's called the week before the crown. Before you get crowned of that achievement, before you get crowned of that degree, graduation, whatever it may be, that promotion, wedding, right? You go through this 5-day process, man. And we're going to be talking about that tonight, man. All aboard the fired up train. And we are getting ready to get into it. This is episode number 236. The Motivation Monday is in the building. I am the Final Boss. And this is the Final Boss Podcast. And thank you for each and every last single one of you who are part of the Final Boss Podcast, Final Boss Nation, Final Boss Community, Final Boss Family, right? To my smarts, to my motivators, to my warriors, to my final bosses, you are the sovereign. Thank you for joining us. No matter who you are and wherever you are, if you're just now joining us, welcome. You're part of the family. And for those who have been here for a while, I see you. I see all of you, each and every last single one of you. We got a full house going right now tonight. So, as we always do on each and every last episode, we give the greeting of the day. And the greeting of the day is good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That is the greeting of the day. That's the greeting of the day. And as always, this is for entertainment purposes only, right? Entertainment purposes only. That's like a little jingle. Entertainment purpose only. Entertainment purpose only, right? So, I'm super excited, man. I'm hyped. I'm always amped up, man, for Motivation Mondays, man. I'm always amped for Motivation Mondays, right? So before we get into the show, man, look, no matter where you're watching from, you're watching from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitch, Kick, Spotify, StreamYard, YouTube. Thank you, right? Thank you for joining us, right? Thank you for joining us. And make sure you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you are like, share, and subscribe, man, before we get into tonight's episode, right? So, right? Tonight, episode number 236. And before we get into tonight, we're going to get, you know what? Let's go ahead and do the brass tacks. Let's go ahead and do the brass tacks of the evening. And the brass tacks is this. Coming from yours truly, right? Oh, let me get rid of the banners. Sorry. Banners are out of here, right? And here's the brass tacks for the evening, right? The crown ain't earned at the ceremony. The crown ain't earned at the ceremony. It's earned in the 5 days nobody watches you walk, right? Now walk with that right now, right? Sit with it, right? Sit with that. And think about it, right? You ever noticed the people who fall apart 5 days before the wedding, 5 days before their business launch, 5 days before their diploma drops, right? 5 days before the contract is signed, right? And the wire clears of those funds that you were looking for, right? 5 days. It's not the week that breaks them. It's the wait. And trust me, we're going to talk about it. It's the wait. I'm going through it right now. Listen, the wait time is heavier than the climb, right? Because in the climb, you got something to push against, right? The gravity, the force, right? That's pushing you forward. The climb has friction. The climb has problems to solve. The climb has muscle and grit and a clock. It also has a target, right? The climb keeps you employed because in the climb, you got something to push against, right? The climb has friction. The climb has problems to solve. The climb has everything, right? It has everything. Because in that wait, you got nothing but you and your mind, your mental, right? And in your mind, in your own mind, right? You've been undefeated since the day you took your first breath. But your mind will spoil the win before the win arrives, right? And that's the trap. That is the trap. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, right? Tonight, we're going to expose the trap. We're going to name it. We're going to dissect it, right? And we're going to hand you the field manual to walk through it without losing what you built, right? This is a stretch that we don't talk about. It's that 5-day window. The week before the crown, the moment when premature celebration meets late stage doubt, right? And the two of them together will fumble a goal you've been chasing for years. 5 days. 5 days, right? 5 days out. You can see the finish line. You can taste it. It tastes good, right? The work is mostly done. The hard part is in the rear view window, right? And right here and right now, in this exact stretch, is where most people fumble the bag they spent half a decade building. Not the climb, not the grind, but the week before, right? The stretch that looks like cruise control, the stretch that pulls more bodies under than the whole journey combined. Tonight, we unlock it, right? Tonight, we unlock it, right? So, all 4 pillars are in the building. All 4 pillars will be addressed. All 4 pillars are eating tonight, right? Smarts, final bosses, motivators, warriors. every one of you gets your time, right? Every one of you gets called out. Every one of you walks out with the lockdown protocol in your hand, right? This is the Rebirth Season 4, Arc 3, episode number 236, right? And Rebirth isn't about the crown. Rebirth is about who walks out of the ceremony alive, right? The version of you who chased the wind is supposed to die at the crown, right? Most people don't let that happen. They hold the climber alive past the ceremony and wonder for the rest of their life why the trophy feels light. But we ain't doing that, right? The sovereign is not doing that, right? The week before the crown is when the climber starts saying goodbye. We're going to honor the goodbye tonight, right? We're going to walk the 5 days like operators. We're going to receive the crown like the new version of ourselves are climbing what we built, right? And then we're going to talk about the morning after, because you only get 24 hours to celebrate. And we're going to lace the boots up and walk towards the next mountain, the next peak, the next objective, right? Because there's always a next mountain. The crown is a foundation, not a finish line. And the operator who walks the 5 days clean is the operator who climbs whatever comes next. This is Motivation Mondays, episode 236, season 4, the Rebirth Arc 3, the week before the crown. And we're live 9 p.m. Eastern time, locked in, and let's get to it. Woo-hoo! Yeah, let's get to it, baby. And listen, the fired up train is ready. So for all of those who are just now joining us, welcome. You're at home. This is family. This is the nation. This is the community. You're at the right place. This is the Final Boss, right? And I am your host, the Final Boss, right? Combat veteran, builder, author, CEO, and tonight, your spotter for the most dangerous week in any operator's calendar, right? And we're live every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. No exceptions, right? No replays, right? For the live energy. We meet right here, same time, every single week, right? This is Motivation Mondays, the Monday before the week wakes up, right? The fire we light before the world starts pulling, right? The 1 hour where we line the bricks before we stack them up, right? And I gave you the brass tacks. But for those who are just now joining us, here's the brass tacks again. Okay, somebody's asking. The brass tacks is the quote that lead us into our conversation for tonight, right? You can always revert back to the brass tacks to see what we're talking about, right? So here's tonight's brass tacks. Again, right? The crown ain't earned at the ceremony. It's earned in the 5 days nobody watches you walk, right? Let that land. Let it land, right? The crown ain't earned at the ceremony. It's earned in the 5 days nobody watches you walk, right? Think about that. Just think about that, right? The ceremony is theater. The ceremony is for the cameras and the family and the program book, right? The ceremony is the moment everybody else sees. The crown gets handed to whoever survives the week before. The crown is the receipt. The walk is the price, right? Most people don't survive the walk, believe it or not, right? Believe it or not, most people don't survive the walk. They show up to the ceremony hollow. The body is in the chair. The fight's already gone. The picture gets taken. The trophy goes on the shelf, and they spend the next 12 months trying to figure out why the win doesn't feel like what they thought it would. But not you. Not my smarts, not my motivators, not my warriors, not my final bosses, right? Not you. And not tonight. Because tonight we walk the 5-day stretch together, pillar by pillar, truth by truth, segment by segment, right? And by the end of the hour, you'll know exactly how to hold what you built. You'll know exactly how to receive the crown like the operator. The climb has forged, right? 4 pillars are locked in, right? Smarts, the thinkers, the strategists, the ones who process 4 moves ahead. And to my final bosses, the operators, the closers, the ones who finish what they start. And to my motivators, the pourers, the lifters, the ones who carry the energy for everybody else. And to my warriors, the combatants, the campaign veterans, right? The ones who built for the long fight, right? All 4 eat tonight, right? All 4 are getting their call out, right? All 4 are walking out with the protocol, man. The fired up train is in the building, baby. It's Motivation Monday, right? And if this is your first time on the show, welcome, right? You walk in on a good night because tonight is operational. Tonight, you get the field manual. Tonight, you get a segment you'll come back to the next time you got something that's 5 days out, right? So pull up, get comfortable, take notes. Yes, you take notes, right? If you take notes, right? Because the next hour, I'm going to walk through why the week before the crown is the most dangerous week in any operator's calendar. Why most people lose the win in that week. What the 4 community pillars need to lock down to survive it. And the field manual for the next 5 days. We're going to go day by day, hour by hour, mode by mode, right? This is the rebirth. Lens Arc 3, the week before the crown. The crown ain't earned at the ceremony. It's earned in the 5 days. Nobody watches you walk. Let's keep moving. Next destination, right? Next destination, right? So let me put it plainly, right? Layman's terms, if you need that, right? But this ain't my layman's block. My layman's block is on Merger Wednesdays, right? Listen. You can be undefeated for 9 months. You can lose the title in 5 days, right? It happens every cycle. It happens in every industry, in every level, at every level, right? From boardroom to courtroom to operating room to graduation stage, same pattern, same fracture point, right? The week before is dangerous because the brain switches modes without permission. You've been in execution mode for so long, the brain doesn't know what to do when execution slows down. The brain has been operating at full throttle for months and maybe years, right? The brain has been pushing, problem solving, executing, adjusting, surviving, right? The brain's been useful, right? And then the work hits, right? The hay is in the barn, right? And it's time to burn. The exam is taken. The deal is closed. The manuscript is submitted, right? The contract is locked. And the ceremony is on the calendar, right? And the brain doesn't know what to do with itself. So it starts looking for something to chew on. And the only thing left to chew on is doubt, right? Is doubt. Doubt is a hungry animal, right? It's ready to eat, but you don't feed it. You don't feed it, it eats you, right? Doubt will eat you, right? So you start second guessing yourself. You start replaying all the things that you were involved in prior, right? You start reading the contract you signed 3 months ago. You start checking the resume you finalized in February, right? You start auditing decisions you locked in 6 months ago. Decisions that don't need auditing because they already worked, right? You start questioning the alignment, right? You start questioning God. That's the trap. That, my friends, is the trap, right? Because the work is done, right? The work is done. The hay is in the barn, right? But your mind don't trust the barn. So it starts pulling hay out, looking for the something in the haystack, right? Pulling out hay, one piece of hay at a time, counting it, right? And by the time you get to the ceremony, half the hay is on the floor. And you can't remember why you can't put it to rest, right? You can't remember. This is the stretch that breaks most people. It's not the climb. It's the wait. And trust me, I'm going through it right now, right? I graduate on Friday, right? With my MBA from University of Maryland, Global Campus, International Studies, right? I should say Global Studies, right? The next 5 days where the work is already finished and the trophy hasn't shown up yet. The 5 days where the only thing left to do is hold position. Hold position. Maybe meditate, right? And holding position is harder than charging. Now hear me out, right? Because anybody can charge. The charge has clarity. The charge has direction, right? The charge has friction to push against. The charge has feedback. You feel the climb because the climb pushes back. Holding has none of that, right? Holding is silence. Holding is patience. Holding is sitting in something you can't fix because there's nothing left to fix. Holding is the spiritual equivalent of being put on hold by life itself, right? And in that hold, the mind goes feral, right? The mind starts inventing problems. The mind starts magnifying minor flaws. The mind starts running disaster scenarios. The mind starts asking questions that have no useful answer, right? What if I'm not ready? What if I miss something, right? What if the wind don't change anything? What if I get there and feel nothing, right? Those questions are not signals. Those are static, right? It's static. Those are the noise your brain makes when it's been built for execution and execution is no longer required, right? The week before the crown is the week the brain has to learn how to be quiet without your permission. And if you don't run the protocol, the brain will run wild. And that's why we run the protocol. That's why we're here tonight, right? That's why we're here tonight, right? Listen, 5 days, all right? Not 3, not 10. This is specific, right? This is a specific period window of time, right? 5 is the math, right? Now let me walk you through it, right? So you're wondering why not 10 days? Because 10 days out, you still got runway, right? You still got things to fix. Your mind is still in problem-solving mode, right? The brain has a job. You run the drills, you rehearse, you sweep for last-minute gaps. The brain is employed. 10 days out is comfortable because the brain is still useful, right? 10 days. 3 days. Let's talk about 3 days out, right? 3 days out, you're already moving. The ceremony machine is in motion. You got people calling, outfits being processed, plans being confirmed, travel being booked, confirmations being chased, logistics taking over. 3 days out has its own gravity, right? 3 days out runs on momentum. You don't have to think. You just have to execute the checklist. 3 days out is the agency, right? But 5 days out is the dead zone, right? Too late to fix anything that matters. Too early for the ceremony machine to kick in. You're floating, right? And floating doesn't feel good at all, right? I hate floating. I really do. Listen, the work is done. The party hasn't started yet, though. The checklist isn't urgent yet. The mind is alone when a finished product and has too much time on its hands, right? And that's where the wheels comes off, right? Because 5 days out is when the imposter voice gets louder. Because there's nothing left to do but stand in the wind. You haven't been given yet, right? And standing in something unbuilt is uncomfortable for anybody who's been building, right? The builder doesn't know how to stand still. The builder doesn't trust stillness, right? The builder thinks if they're not moving, they're losing ground. So in the dead zone, the builder will invent motion, manufacture problems, create urgency where there is none, pick fights with reality because reality has stopped giving them resistance, right? You see it. You see it in your own behavior. You see it almost every day. You need to start watching for it, right? 5 days out, you start picking arguments with the people closest to you. You start reorganizing things that don't need to be reorganized. You start making purchases you don't even need. You start scheduling meetings that could have waited. You start replying to emails at midnight that could wait until the morning. And you think it's productivity. That's not productivity, people. That's avoidance. You're dealing with something, right? The builder is avoiding the stillness because the stillness feels like death. The stillness feels like the climb is over. The stillness feels like the climber is being asked to lay down, right? And we don't lay down. No. We don't lay down, right? The climber don't want to lay down. So the climber invents motion to stay alive, right? But you can't. You can't do that, right? So don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to you, right? Think about this. The week before the crown, the builder has to learn a new mode. Mode. Right? That mode is holding. And holding is not laziness. Holding is not failure. Holding is not the absence of work. Holding is the most disciplined version of work there is, right? Holding is staying ready when there is nothing to stay ready for. That's the dead zone. And that's why it's dangerous, right? That's why most people lose the win in these moments, right? Because most people have never been trained to hold. They've been trained to charge. The week before the crown is asking them to do something their nervous system has never practiced. Tonight, we want to start practicing, right? Tonight, we lock in. This is day 1 of day 5, right? 5 days out, right? We're in the dead zone. And by the end of this episode, you will know to walk in it like an operator. Speaking of which, the operator and the conductor is ready to go to the next station, baby. Let's go, right? The fired up train is ready, right? And next destination is the old you wants the trophy, right? But here's where the rebirth lens hits dead center, right? Because the old you, it wants its trophy, right? It wants its trophy and it wants it now, right? The old you fought for it. The old you sacrificed for it. The old you bled for it. The old you took the late nights, the missed dinners, the canceled vacations, right? The lonely mornings, the borrowed sleep, right? the strained relationships, the deferred dreams. The old you paid the price. The old you needs the trophy. The old you needs the validation. The old you wants to walk across the stage, hold the paper up, post a picture, take the lap, hear the applause, feel the moment, right? The old you wants the receipt for the price you've paid, right? That's fair, right? That's fair, right? The old you earned it. And look, I'm not here to deny it, right? I'm not here to deny what the old you went through. And I'm not here to minimize the climb because the climb was real. The price was real, right? The exhaustion was real. The doubt was real. The lonely nights were real, right? But here's the trap, right? Here's the trap. The old you is also the version of yourself that needed external proof to feel real. Right? The old you is the version that measured worth in milestones, right? The old you is the version that needed the diploma, the title, the contract, the announcement, the public facing receipt. The old you was building the identity on outcomes. And the moment you take that trophy, the old you is supposed to die, right? Because if the new you keeps needing trophies, you ain't reborn. You're just collecting, right? And you'll be back in that same moment 2 years from now, chasing the next external proof. You'll be back here in the years needing a bigger title to fill the same hit. You'll be back here in 10 years exhausted because the validation game never ends and the validation never satisfies and the validation is always hungry. The validation is always hungry. It wants to eat. It wants to eat, right? That's not rebirth. That's a hamster wheel and a brass finish, right? The week before the crown is the funeral of the version of yourself that was hungry for the crown, right? The week before the crown is the funeral for the version of yourself that was hungry for the crown, right? The funeral. And that funeral is uncomfortable because the corpse keeps trying to sit up. You feel it. You feel it right in there, right? You feel it. And you'll feel the old you reaching for the validation, right? Wanting to post early, wanting to tell everybody, wanting the spotlight before the spotlight is earned, right? Wanting to show people the receipt before the receipt is in your hand. Wanting to be congratulated. Wanting to be recognized, right? Wanting to be seen. And sit with that, right? Don't feed it, but sit with it, right? Let the climber feel the end, right? Let the climber grieve the climb. Let the climber take one last walk through the journey. Let the climber say goodbye to the version of you that needed proof. The trophy is for the old you's funeral, not the new you celebration. The new you starts the morning after the ceremony. The new you doesn't need the trophy. The new you doesn't need the picture. The new you doesn't need the applause. The new you has internalized the work. The new you knows the worth without the receipt, right? The trophy becomes the gravestone. The next mountain becomes the new home, right? The old you lay down. The new you walks on, right? That's rebirth. And that's why we're in season 4, the rebirth, right? Now, right? Next destination, right? Woohoo! Next destination is the premature celebration that kills the win, right? Premature celebration that kills the win, right? As we listen to the fired up train, right? Because this is the emotional trap. So pay attention, right? Premature celebration kills the wind, right? You ever see somebody pop champagne at 90 on the 90-yard line, right? And then fumble at the 1-yard line? And you laugh, you shake your head. You wonder out loud how an operator at that level could be that careless. But you do the same thing in your own life. And you don't even realize it, right? You don't even realize it. You start talking about the promotion before the offer letter signs. You announce the deal before the wire clears. You buy the car before the bonus drops. You hand out invitations before the venue is confirmed. You quit the side hustle before the new salary lands. Every one of those is a fumble, and you get the knife hand for it, right? It's a fumble waiting to happen, right? The crown ain't yours until it's in your hand. And even then, it ain't fully yours until you've held it for 30 days without losing it. In the week before, your job is to celebrate, right? Your job is to celebrate. Your job is to walk soft, move quiet, stay locked, right? Tell nobody who don't need to know. The move is this. You need to move like the week ain't happening, right? That's right there. That's the answer. Move like the week ain't happening, right? Treat Monday like a Wednesday. Treat Friday like a Tuesday. Don't give it no special energy. Don't give it any premature lapse. No premature celebrations, right? No early flexing, right? The crown comes to an operator who acts like it ain't even a thing, right? Now hear me. Hear me on a deeper layer, right? Hear me on a deeper layer, right? Because premature celebration ain't just dangerous because it can jinx the outcome. Premature celebration is dangerous because it spins the dopamine you need to walk through the ceremony with focus. The dopamine is a budget. You only get so much, right? If you spend it 5 days early, posting, announcing, telling everybody, accepting congratulations, taking the early lap, the dopamine is gone by the time the actual crown arrives. The ceremony feels muted. The win feels flat. You took the high before the high was supposed to land, right? And this is why people who hype the moment ahead of time always look hollow at the moment itself, right? They already cashed the check, right? Don't cash the check early. Don't be out here cashing checks early, people, right? Stack the dopamine. Hold it. Let it build. Let the pressure rise. Let the anticipation command and compound, right? And then walk into the ceremony loaded, right? The wind lands differently when you've been quiet about it. So, be quiet, right? Same goes for the people around you. Tell them to be quiet. Tell them to shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, right? The folks who knew you were grinding don't need to be told the grind paid off 5 days early, right? They'll see it in the ceremony. They'll see it in the announcement. They'll see it in the pictures, right? They'll see it in your face, right? The folks who didn't know or don't know get to find out early. They don't get to find out early either, right? The week before is not the week to broadcast. The week before is the week to walk out quietly, right? Because operators move in silence, right? And they stay silent for 5 days before a major operation, right? You need to be moving clandestinely, right? Then the operation happens. Then the operation is announced. Then the operation enters the record, right? It's quiet. It's shh, right? The operation announcement, right? It's in this order. You're quiet. The operation happens. Then you make the announcement. And you do it in that order, right? Not the announcement, then the operation, then the quiet, right? Anybody who runs that sequence loses the operation half the time, right? You have to walk soft, move quiet, stay locked. The crown is loudest when it lands on a quiet head. Right? Now, let's get to the next destination, right? Next destination, right? We're calling out the smarts, right? We're going to be doing the cognitive lockdown, right? So smarts, this is for you. This is for you. So lock in, right? Smarts, you're the thinkers, the strategists, the processors, the ones who run 4 moves ahead of every situation, the ones who can see the second order sequences before the first move is made. That's your gift. That's why the community needs you. And in the week before the crown, the gift becomes your trap, right? Because a brain that processes 4 moves ahead with nothing left to process starts processing the past. You start running simulations on decisions already made. You start auditing the climb you already finished. You start looking for cracks in the foundation you already poured and cured, right? You start asking questions like, did I prepare enough? And did I cover everything, right? And what if I missed something, right? And should have I made that other choice back a few months ago, right? You need to stop doing that. Red flag on the play, right? Stop, full stop, right? Full stop, flag on the play, right? Because that kind of thinking, flag on the play, right? That kind of thinking is not strategy. That's static, right? That's your processor running in circles because there's no fresh input to chew on, right? A brain like yours needs a target. And the current target is done. The current stage doesn't need your processing anymore, right? The current stage needs you to step away and let it land, for God's sake, right? And here's the cognitive lockdown for my smarts, right? 3 rules that you must follow, right? Write it down, take notes, memorize, right? Rule number 1, no relitigation, right? No relitigation. Decisions you made that got you here, they work. They function. They produce the outcome that is now 5 days from arriving, right? And they don't need a vote. They don't need a revote for the next 5 days, right? The window for deciding closed weeks to go. You're not allowed to relitigate, right? If you catch yourself relitigating, you stop. You name it. You say it out loud, right? And you say to yourself, I am relitigating a closed decision, and you redirect. Because then you have to ask yourself, redirect. What do you say? What? Redirect what? That's what you ask. And then rule number 2, right? Rule number 2, right? Forward processing only, right? Forward processing only, like the fired up train, right? Like the fired up train, right? Because if your mind needs something to chew on, give it the next mountain. Give it the next mountain early, right? Not the current one. The current one is done. Plan to move around the crown. What does the morning after look like, right? What does the week or the next week or week one of the new chapter look like, right? What does month one look like, right? That's productive. That's fuel. This gives your strategist brain a target it can actually move on, and it positions you to land on the morning after the crown with a plan instead of a hangover, right? And then there's rule 3, right? Rule 3. This is your single input streams, right? First, you cut the noise. Then you cut the feedback loops, right? Then you cut the well-meaning advisors who suddenly got opinions about a finish line you've been running toward for years, right? I hate those people. Man, those people really grind my gears, man. How you want to speak to me on something that you've never even achieved, right? You're going to speak to me on something you've never even gained, right? You're going to speak on something when you've never even put in the work, the same work, the discipline, the architecture, or the frameworks that I've put in. You can't tell me shit. Shut the fuck up, right? Shut the fuck up, right? And be quiet about it, right? Be quiet about it. I don't need no new information. No information for 5 days out. I need silence, right? I need clarity. I need the mental ground, right? To hold on to whatever I built, right? If somebody texts you with a, have you thought about this? Or you've thought about that 5 days out? The answer is yes. You thought about it months ago. And you're not opening that file again, right? And you smile. Send them a smile emoji, right? Send them a smile emoji, right? With demon intent. With demon intent, right? And then you thank them and you keep it moving, right? This is the lockdown. No relitigation. Forward processing only, right? Single input streams, right? That's what we're doing, right? And if you run those 3 rules, the dead zone becomes productive. The dead zone becomes the planning room for the next campaign. The dead zone becomes the war table you were trying to map the morning of the crown, right? And to my smarts, your gift is what you get right here, right now. Your gift is what carries you forward. Don't let your gift eat the wind you just delivered, right? Lock your brain for the next move, right? Because the current one will land on its own, right? Now, let's move on. Next destination, final bosses, right? And this is the operational standard for you guys, right? Because you're the operators, you're the closers, you're executors, the ones who finish what they start, the ones the community calls when something has to actually get done, right? The ones who don't fold under the deadline, the ones who walk into the room and the room organizes itself. That's who you are. In the week before the crown, your discipline gets tested at the level nobody trained you for, right? Because most operational training teaches you how to push. The week before teaches you how to hold, right? Holding is harder than pushing. I said that earlier, right? And look, I'm going to say it again. Holding is harder than pushing, right? A push has direction. A push has fuel. A push has resistance. A push has feedback. A push has a clock, right? You know if you're winning or losing the push because the push gives you a signal, right? Holding has none of that, right? Holding is staying ready when there's nothing to stay ready for, right? Holding is maintaining standard when nobody is measuring, right? Holding is keeping the protocol sharp when the protocols are no longer the mission critical, right? Most operators slack the week before, right? They earned it. They tell themselves they worked hard this entire time. And they deserve a break. They deserve to ease off. They deserve to coast, right? And guess what? You ain't most operators. The operational standard for final bosses in the 5-day window is this, right? You maintain the same intensity you had at the start. Same wake up time, same morning protocol, same gym session, same nutrition, same hydration, same evening shutdown, same sleep window. Nothing changes. Nothing, right? Nothing changes, right? The week before the crown is the week you prove the standard wasn't situational. The standard was structural, right? Built into your very existence, built into who you are, right? The standard didn't exist because the goal was approaching. The standard exists because that's how you operate, period. The end. Full stop, right? If you drop the standard the week before the crown, the standard was never yours. The standard was just an instrument you used to reach the goal. The standard was a costume and you wore it to the climb and now you're taking it off, right? That's a telltale sign, right? That tells me the next mountain, the next mountain you're looking at, you're not ready, right? You're not ready for the next mountain. That tells your team you can't hold, right? That tells your own nervous system that discipline is conditional, right? And we ain't doing none of that, right? We ain't doing none of that because you hold the standard. You walk the 5 days the way you walked the last 9 months with the same posture, same protocol, same operational tempo, same discipline execution, right? The crown is not the end of the standard. The crown is the verification of that very standard, right? In the morning after the crown, the standard is still there. It's still there, right? Same standard, new campaign, next campaign, right? Next mountain, right? The standard rolls forward because the standard is who you are, right? Now hear me out, man. Hear me out, final bosses. You don't celebrate early, right? You don't slow down, right? You don't take the foot off the gas because the finish line is visible. The finish line is a lie. There's no finish line. There's only the next start line. And how you run through this one right here tells the next one whether you deserve to start it or not. The week before the crown is the proof that the operator is permanent, not the climb. The hold the standard. Walk the next 5 days like an operator. Receive the crown like the operator. The climb built. Lock it. All right. Next destination is motivators, right? Motivators. Turn up, motivators. Turn up, pull up, right? Next destination, the empty cut trap. And this is for you, motivators, right? This is for you. Because you're the ones who lift orders, the ones who pour out, the ones who carry the energy for everybody else. The community comes to you when they're down, right? The community comes to you when they need fire. The community comes to you when they need somebody to remind them that they are capable of what they're capable of, right? You give because that's what you do. And then the week before, you own your crown. You're vulnerable in a way nobody warned you about, right? Because you spent so long being everybody's spotter, you don't know how to be your own, right? And listen, my cup ain't empty, but that's the empty cup trap, right? And it works like this, right? 5 days out. 5 days out, you start giving away the energy you need to hold yourself together, right? Somebody calls you with their crisis, right? And you take it on. You absorb the pressure. You give them the speech, right? And then you walk through the fog. You leave the call lighter. Then, because you traded in your energy that you have reserved for stability, right? You start to crash. You see where I'm going with this, right? Somebody texts you their setback. Again, you absorb it. You write the long reply. You give them advice, right? You put them on the couch, right? You give them the framework. You pour from the cup that's yours and you give it to them because you can't stand to see them low, right? Somebody needs a pep talk and you give them the speech you should have been giving yourself. You give away the fire you need for your own ceremony. You hand them your matches and you walk into the week with a wet flint, right? And by the time the ceremony hits, you got nothing left. The crown drops on an empty cap and you stand at the podium and feel nothing. The picture gets taken and you look distant. The applause hits and you can't even register it, right? Because you gave it away. You gave away all of that emotional capacity that you needed to receive for that moment. And listen, that's not love. That's not service. That's not the calling that you think it is, right? That right there is called depletion, my friends. And it's depletion that's masquerading as generosity. The community doesn't need you depleted. The community needs you full. A full motivator changes lives. A depleted motivator burns out and stops pouring entirely. And here's the lockdown, right? The week before you win, you pour into nobody. Look, man, I'm sorry, right? Sometimes you got to be selfish with yourself, right? The week before, you pour into nobody, right? Not your team, not your family, not your community, not your friends, not the people who reach out, right? The people who text you, nobody, right? Not the people who call, nobody gets to pour, right? The week is sealed. You go selective, you go quiet, you guard your cup, like you guard my cup, right? Like I'm guarding my cup, right? And if somebody's in a crisis, you direct them to other resources. You give them a name, you give them a number, right? You give them a referral, and you don't give them your reserve energy, right? Your reserve energy is allocated for this week, right? And you're going to need all of your energy, right? If somebody is mildly down, you tell them you love them and you will be back next week. If somebody is fishing for engagement, they don't get it. The fishing line gets empty. This ain't selfish, man. It's sustainable, right? It's sustainable. Because motivators who show up at their own crown empty teaches everybody around them that the climb didn't pay, that the win didn't matter, that the work is forever and the receipt is hollow. That's a lesson nobody in your community can afford to learn from you. You owe them a full version of yourself at the finish line, right? You need to guard that cup, walk the week, receive the crown in full, right? Then pour again, twice as hard, right? Now, next destination is for my warriors, right? We're almost at the finish line. Right? This is the last 100 meters, right? And to my warriors, right? The last of the last. This is the hardest charge, right? So lock in, right? Fired up train is moving. You are built for combat, right? You're built for the long campaign. You're built for the moments when everybody else folds. The community looks to you when the situation is real, when the stakes are high, when the conditions are degraded, when the easy people have left the Zoom, right? You hold the line because that's what you do, right? The week before the crown is your last 100 meters. It's the last 100 meters of the PT race, right? And in any combat operation, the last 100 meters of an objective is where most casualties happen, right? Not on the approach, not in the breach. not in the initial contact, right? The last 100 meters is when the target is in sight and the body wants to relax because the mission feels won. That's the kill zone, right? The target sees the same finish line as you. The target knows where the LZ is. The target knows where to set up the ambush. The target is patient. The target is waiting for the moment your security posture drops. The moment you exhale before the mission is over is the moment the kill zone opens. The week before the crown is where the kill zone resides, right? Civilian or otherwise, same principle, same discipline, same casualty math, right? You don't break security posture because the objective is visible. You don't lower the muzzle because the firefight feels over. You don't take a knee because you can see the LZ, right? You don't loosen the kit because you're close to base. You finish hard. You finish locked in. You finish like the next round is still inbound, right? Because in your life, after every objective, there's always another. The next mountain does not care that you just took the last one. The next mountain just wants to know if you came through the last 100 meters with the same discipline or with relief, right? Because discipline takes the next one, right? Relief gets ambushed at the LZ, right? Now hear me out, warriors, right? The campaign is forever. You don't get a peace dividend, right? You don't get to stand down. You don't get to retire. You don't get short windows of resupply, right? Logistics is ongoing, right? The resupply between objectives never ends. And that's it. That's the deal you signed when you became a warrior. The campaign is and forever, right? The crown is not the end of the campaign. The crown is the checkpoint. The crown is a marker. The crown is the receipt for the last objective, right? And then the next objective opens. The week before the crown, you treat the approach like it's still hot because operationally it is. Threats in the week before include, right? Included your own complacency. That's your number one threat. It's always the number one threat, right? The well-meaning saboteur, right? The person who shows up the week before with reasons to deviate from your own protocol, right? You mean well, right? But you are still your only threat, right? I said and begin, right? I've been saying it for a long time. You got to be a villain to the bad guy, right? You have to defeat your inner me, right? And you can't do that under a premature exit. The urge to leave the operational mindset before the operation closes, you're going to have the urge to be present. You're going to have the urge to soak it in. You're going to have the urge to look at it 5 days before the crown. But all of that is the after market or after point, right? It's the after. The last mile sentiment, the emotional flood that hits 5 days out and tries to soften your edge, and you want to acknowledge it. But you don't want to act on it. You want to return to posture, right? You need to stay sharp. You need to stay locked. You need to stay ready for the round that hasn't come yet. Because you know the truth, most people don't. And the truth is this. The campaign is forever. The last 100 meters in the kill zone, and the warrior who finishes locked in is the warrior who lives to take the next objective. You need to walk the next 5 days like an approach. Receive like a crown. Receive the crown like a checkpoint. Hold the line. Hold the line. Hold the line like the campaign is forever because it is, right? Because it is, right? We're almost done. We're going to go over a little bit, right? But we're almost done, right? We're almost done. And I need you to understand something, right? The next destination is the rebirth lens, right? This is the crown of death, right? Because this whole season, we've been talking about the rebirth. And I want to put this episode inside this season's lens and lock in, right? And this is deep, right? So make sure you guys are taking notes for this, right? Look at it like this. Take this perspective in, right? The week before the crown is crown death, right? The version of yourself who chased this thing is supposed to die at the ceremony. That's the whole point of rebirth, right? You climb as one person, you arrive as somebody new. The crown isn't the destination, the crown is the threshold, right? Most people don't understand this. They think the crown is the trophy at the end of the chase. They think the crown is the prize. They think the crown is the payment. They think the crown is the period of the end of the sentence. But listen, it's not. It's not. The crown is the comma. The crown is the threshold. The crown is the doorway between who you were and who you're becoming. And the doorway costs a death. There's always a price. There's always a sacrifice, right? You have to leave somebody behind on the other side of the door that you walk through, right? And most people refuse to leave anybody behind. They drag the climber through the doorway with them. They show up at the ceremony, they hold the same thing, and they take the picture, and they spend the rest of their life trying to figure out why they still feel empty. They feel empty because they didn't let the climber die, right? The climber has to die for the next version of you to be born. The week before the crown is where the climber starts to feel the feeling of the end. That's why the mind gets loud. That's why the climber knows the climb is over. That's why the climber knows the climber's job is finishing. And that's why the climber is grieving. Even if you don't recognize the grief, right? You have to let it finish. You have to let it finish, man. You don't fight the climber, right? You honor it. You walk the climb with it. You earn the crown with it. You bleed with it. And now you let it lay down, right? The crown becomes the gravestone for the climber and the foundation stone for whoever you become next, right? That's the rebirth. The week before the crown is when you, in the old version of you, start saying goodbye. Say bye-bye, right? Don't grip too hard. Don't try to hold the climber alive past the ceremony. You let the climber go, right? You let the old you go, right? The new you can't be born until the climber lays down, right? That's spiritual physics of arrival. Two versions of you cannot occupy the same body. That's physics, right? The new version can't show up until the old version steps aside. Most people resist this because the old you was comfortable. The old you was familiar. The old you was you for a long time. And the old you is what got you here. And you got to leave the old you behind. There is loyalty in a relationship with the old you, but the loyalty for the version of yourself that has done its work is the slowest form of self-betrayal. You have to honor the old you by letting it rest. You have to honor the climb by letting it in. You have to honor the crown by becoming worthy of what it represents. And what it represents is the new self, right? A new self. A week before the crown is a transition ritual. Every culture in human history had transition rituals around major milestones, right? We've lost most of them. The 5 days before the crown is the ritual of time. The 5 days is the threshold. The 5 days is the sacred ground between who you were and who you're becoming. You need to walk it like it's on sacred ground. You need to walk it like it's a sacred passage. You need to walk it like a death and a birth happening at the same time in the same body, right? Because that's exactly what's happening. And that's, my friends, is the rebirth. And that's why we're in season 4. Boom, right? Now, we got some time. Give me another 10 minutes, man. Give me another 10 minutes, right? Give me another 10 minutes and we'll be done, right? Let's talk about next destination. Next destination on the fired up train. we're going to talk about, we can already go to the next mountain doctrine, right? Because the next mountain and this doctrine right here, this is what's going to save you, right? Because every crown is a foundation and not a finish line. If you treat the crown as a finish line, you'll spend the week before mourning the end of whatever you're trying to accomplish. The grief will be heavy. The grief will be confused. The grief will leak into the ceremony, and you'll spend the week wondering why the trophy doesn't feel as heavy as you thought it would. But if you treat the crown as foundation, your whole week prior changes character. The week before becomes prep for the next build, not celebration for the next current, right? And we're not talking about mourning for what's ending. We're talking about prep. Active prep for what's about to begin. The work doesn't stop. The work shifts, right? You finish the current climb on autopilot because the work for it is already done, and you start surveying it and start surveying for the next mountain, right? What does the next mountain look like? What does the next mountain require? What does the morning after the crown look like? What is week one after the new chapter, right? What's the new month look like? What's the new quarter look like? What's the first deliverable that you're planning to deliver for the next campaign, right? These are the questions the week before that you should be asking. Not, did I do enough on that last campaign? Not, should I have done something differently? Those questions are closed. That chapter is closed. The door is shut, right? The current campaign is closed. The next one is open. Spin the dead zone there. This is how operators avoid the post-crown crash, right? Because the post-crown crash is real. It hits the people who never plan beyond the trophy. They get the crown, the dopamine peaks, chemistry floods, and then drops harder than they were ready for, right? They drop, and it's biological. The brain spent a year producing dopamine on the anticipation of the arrival. And when the arrival happens, the anticipation is gone. The dopamine factory shuts down because the target is met. The operator is left in a chemical hole they don't even have the language for, right? Some people never climb again. They don't see the next peak. They can't see the next mountain. They don't see the next objective, right? They become trophy collectors. The trophy on the shelf becomes the high water mark. They stop building. They start retelling the story of the climb because the climb was the best they ever felt. And they don't know how to feel that again without a new climb that they're too afraid to start. But you're not that. Right? The sovereign isn't that. My smarts, my motivators, my warriors, my final bosses, you aren't that, right? The week before the crown is the week you choose your next mountain. And choose it out loud. Write it down, right? Say it to yourself, right? Tell your accountability partners, tell your accountability circle, right? To the people, tell it to the people who see you on the other side of the ceremony, right? The current crown becomes the floor of the next house, not the ceiling of this one, right? The crown is the foundation, set in stone, right? And you can see it, right? You stand on it. You build on it, right? You don't put on a shelf and worship it, right? You put it on the ground and build the next floor, right? This is the difference between an operator and a collector. Operators turn crowns into floors. Collectors put crowns on shelves, right? Operators have more floors. Collectors have more shelves, right? You need to decide which one are you. Decide before the ceremony, right? Because the morning after the ceremony, you'll either be laying towel, right? Laying towel on the next floor, or starting or staring at the trophy and wondering what to do next, right? The operator already knows. The next campaign is already open. The next build is already on the table, right? The crown is just the foundation stone you stand on while you start the next one. That's the doctrine. That's the lens. That's how you survive the week before and the week after, right? That's how you do it. Now, how much time left? Yeah, give me 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes, man. 10 more minutes, we'll be done, right? Next destination, the 5-day lockdown protocol, right? Next destination, right? This is your field manual, right? Take notes, pull up, right? This is how you walk the next 5 days, day by day, mode by mode, right? This is what you need. This is what I need you to do. We're going to start with day 5. This is the inventory, right? Start with the quiet morning, right? No social media before noon, right? No external input before you sat with yourself, right? You list every loose end on your current campaign, everything that you can still close, right? Everything that you can still close, you close. Everything that has to stay open until the ceremony, you flag and leave open, right? No new commitments, no new conversations, no new projects. You compress, you don't expand, right? The mantra for the day of day 5 is this: everything is being closed or flagged, and I'm not adding, right? Then day 4, right? Let's start with day 4. This is your silence mode, right? You go selective with communication. You only talk to the people who need to talk to you for the ceremony itself. That's family, co-organizers, critical logistics. Everybody else can wait until after. You guard the energy. You turn down invitations. You shorten replies. You leave the group chats, right? You set the away message, right? The mantra for day 4 is this: I am quiet because I am preparing, right? And then there's day 3, right? Day 3 is the body mode, right? Sleep becomes the priority. Hydration is the priority. Movement is the priority. Whatever you've been doing for your body, you do it on a stricter clock. Earlier sleep, cleaner food, more water, less caffeine, right? And definitely no alcohol. The body has to show up to the crown as ready as the mind. The body is the platform that delivers the moment, right? And the mantra for day 3 is: my body is the platform. I am tuning that platform, right? That's the mantra, right? For day 3. Now, day 2, you go in full logistics mode, right? You become a logistician, right? Your outfit, your travel, your documents, your confirmations. You handle the mechanics. You walk through every step of the ceremony in your mind. You identify every transition point. Where do I park? Where do I sit? Where do I walk? Where do I stand? Where do I leave from, right? You build the operational picture. No emotion, just a checklist. The ceremony is an operation, and you run it like one, right? The mantra for day 2 is: I'm operationalizing the day, right? And then finally, day 1. This is your stillness mode, right? This is a light day with light meals, light conversation, early to bed, right? The night before is not the night to fix anything. The night before is the night to walk in everything already complete. You read something, you read it steady, right? Go read Go Time All Aboard the Fired Up Train, right? Volume 1. You sit with somebody you love, or you sit alone. You let the week settle into your body. You let the climber start saying goodbye in earnest, right? The mantra for day 1 is: I am already complete. The ceremony is the verification, right? And then there's day 0, the ceremony, right? You wake up on schedule. You move on schedule. You arrive on schedule. You show up on schedule, right? You receive on schedule. You walk out as planned. You take the picture. You honor the climb, and you let the climber lay down. You start surveying the next mountain that evening before you sleep. The mantra is for day 0: I am the new version. The crown is the foundation, right? Then you start with the next day as day +1, the morning after, right? After the celebration is over, because you only get 24 hours to celebrate, right? Boots on ground, new campaign starts. The next mountain is named. The first deliverable on the new floor begins, right? The mantra for day +1 is: yesterday was the foundation. Today I build. That's the field manual. 5 days, 5 modes, 5 mantras, right? You don't be impressive. the week before, or you don't improvise the week before. You run the protocol. Operators don't wing the most important week of a campaign. Operators run a checklist. That is the checklist. Print it out, screenshot it, take it to the mirror, right? Take it to the mirror. Walk the next 5 days like an operator, receive the crown like a foundation, build the next floor like a campaign that's going to last forever, because it is, right? Now, as we close, right? As we close. The fired up train, next destination, this is the final charge. This is the final verdict, right? Now, hear me out. Hear me out on this, right? We're coming to the end of this episode, right? This is the final charge, so let's lock in, right? The week before the crown is not the easy week. The week before the crown is not the easy week. The week before the crown is the rest. It's the test, right? It's the one where you hit yourself in the chest, right? Bars. Because the test is the climb. The test is the climb, right? The climb tested your effort. The climb tested your stamina. The climb tested your grit. The climb tested your ability to push through. The week before tests something different. The week before tests your discipline when the effort no longer is required. Anybody can push when the push is only option. The push is the easy answer, then there's nothing else available. The push has clarity. The push has feedback. The push has direction. The week before, the push is operational. Most people choose to stop. That's why most people show up to their own ceremonies hollow. That's why most crowns get worn by people who look like they don't believe they earned it. You don't get to be one of those people. You earned this stretch. Don't let your own mind take it from you. Don't let premature celebration take it from you. Don't let the well-meaning noise take it from you. Don't let exhaustion take it from you. Don't let the empty cup take it from you. Don't let the climber's grief take it from you, right? You pour. The work is done. The hay is in the barn. Now you walk the next 5 days the same way you walked the last 5 years, right? You do it quietly. You're locked in. You're focused. You're aimed, right? Same posture, same protocol, same operational tempo, same discipline execution, same standard, right? The standard is who you are. The standard is permanent. The standard doesn't end at the crown, right? And when the ceremony hits and the crown drops, you receive it like the operator you are and the operator you came because you earned it, right? You take the picture, you earn the climb, and you honor it. You let the climber die in peace, and you walk through the threshold, right? The next morning, you put your boots on because there's always a next mountain. The campaign is forever. The next objective is already open. The next floor is already waiting to be towed. The operator who walked the last 5 days clean is the operator who climbs whatever comes next. That's the verdict, right? The week before the crown is the crown. The 5 days is the real test. The ceremony is the real receipt, right? You ain't winning if you only know how to charge. You're winning when you also know how to hold. You're winning is when you can stand in stillness without inventing motion. You're winning when you can let the climber die without grief contaminating the threshold. You're winning when you choose the next mountain before you cross the current finish. That's the win. That's the rebirth, right? That's what season 4 has been teaching us since episode number 201. The climber dies. The new self walks out. The next campaign opens. The standard rolls forward. The cup is guarded. The brain is forward processing. The body is tuned. The logistics are operationalized. The ceremony is a checkpoint. The crown is a foundation. And you are the operator. You are the warrior. You are the motivator. You are the strategist, right? You are all 4 pillars in the body, and the body is locked in, right? And you walk that week You receive the crown and you build the next floor, right? That's the verdict. That week before the crown is the crown, right? Now lock it down, right? Now, we're done in 2 minutes. Give me 2 more minutes, right? Listen, next destination. Next destination is we're going to be talking about the next Monday motivation episode, right? Next Monday episode I forgot what it was. It may change. But this Monday, which is Motivation Monday, episode number 236, season 4, Rebirth Arc 3, the week before the crown. Listen, if this hits you, you know what to do. Screenshot it, share it, like, share, right? Share it with somebody in the 5-day window of someone who's doing their own thing. Tag it, show it. Pull somebody else through the stretch with you. The community grows when the community pulls, right? Quick lineup for the week coming up, right? Tomorrow night, we got Tech Tuesdays with the Sensei, right? The Sensei is locked and loaded for another deep cut into the tools and tech the community needs, right? Then on Wednesday, Merger Wednesdays, the Consciousness Sovereignty Architecture continues, Arc 3 of the year in year 1 merger, right? Doctoral level verified content, pull up if you want to do the deep dive, right? And then Thursday, special guest Thursdays, special guests in a chair, bring questions, right? It may be a town hall, right? And then sitting down Sundays, right? That's the contemplative episode, the unwind, the deep sit, right? Every show, every week, live, same energy, same standard for the Final Boss community, Final Boss Nation, Final Boss family. Lock those in, right? Take notes and save them, right? The podcast home is at thefinalbosspodcast.com, right? Or at @thefinalboss_podcast across every platform. Find us, follow us, subscribe, turn the bell on, right? Turn your notifications on, right? I am the Final Boss. I am also the author, and you can find my author site at dwight-turbodillard.com. That's where that's my author site for the book, right? dwight-turbodillard.com, right? That's my home site for my book, right? You can find about the author on there, about the book, testimonials, right? Contact information, email capture, right? For the Fired Up Train. And that Fired Up Train community is live, right? So sign up, get the dispatches out there, right? Go Time is a number one seller, right? It's a number one seller, right? And it's available now. The original framework, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Who you be, what you build, and how you dominate, right? The foundation of the trilogy, right? Go Time 2 is loading. The next chapter is coming out soon, right? Then Go Time 3 is closing, right? This fall, hopefully, right? The Final Boss Origins fiction tale comes out next winter, right? The first novel in the Final Boss series, right? Then Hexadecimal, the AI vetting agent, right? She's online and live with the 6 C's framework, right? 100-point scoring matrix. Pull it up, check her out, right? Give her a call, right? The Sovereign Edition, brand evolution active, logo development under the umbrella of the Sovereign, right? 4 pillars, 1 community, right? The smarts, the thinkers, the strategists. My final bosses, the operators, the closers, motivators, the pours, the lifters, warriors, the combatants, the campaign veterans. All 4 eat, right? All 4 have ate, right? And they eat every show, every week, every season, right? This is season 4 of the Rebirth Arc 3, and we do the deep work. The arc continues through the back half of the season. The harvest comes at episode 300. And until then, we are building. We're going to continue to build. Every episode is a brick. Every Monday is a fire. Every Wednesday is a deep dive. Every show is a lift for the community. And here's my closing words, right? Before the week of the crown is the crown. You earned the climb. Now walk the week. The crown comes to the quiet ones. The next mountain is already named. The campaign is forever. The standard is permanent. The cup is guarded. The climber lays down. The new self walks out. The boots go back on the morning after. That's the play. That's the work. That's the rebirth. This is Motivation Mondays, episode number 236, season 4, the Rebirth Arc 3. We're live every Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I am the Final Boss. This has been the Final Boss Podcast, Final Boss Community, Final Boss Nation. And until tomorrow on Tech Tuesdays, I will see you then for Tech Tuesdays with the sensei, right? And if this resonates with you, don't gatekeep. And as always, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but there's a heavier pain that comes with regret. I am here. We are here. And as always, if I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That is our show. Be balanced, be equal, and be smart. Y'all have a great one, and I will see you again tomorrow night for Tech Tuesdays at 9 p.m. See you then.